So, welcome everybody. It's a real pleasure to have you all here joining us for the session on accelerating circular behaviors, and especially looking into the role of digitalization on that path. How can digitalization help consumers behaving and engaging more with the circular economy? My name is Mariana Nicolau, and I'm a project manager at the CSCP, the Collaborating Century on Sustainable Consumption and Production, and we are also a member of the Stakeholder Platform. With my colleague Imke Schmidt and my colleague Michael Kuhn, we are today very happy to welcome here and guide you through this session. Before we really jump into it, I think we could start sharing the slides. Our agenda is a 1 hour long session. We start with a quick input for you to understand what do we mean by circular behavior and what we mean by the interface between digitalization and circular behaviors among consumers. And then we have a few welcoming words and setting the scene from our EESC member, Maria, to reflect on the topic of circular behaviors, also from the initiatives of the ESC. And then we jump straight into 3 concrete cases where we see in practice, listening especially from businesses, what does it mean to use a digital tool, a digital solution to support consumers behaving more sustainably. And before we wrap up, we have a small panel discussion with questions we prepared, but also questions from you, to then hear more about what are the challenges of these businesses, what are the opportunities, how can we help that strive and scaling up. Then moving next with our slides, I think one more. We have 2 practical tips. Is first, please make the best out of your time with us. Avoid multitasking, avoid maybe checking the phone so we can really follow and together have something practical getting out of the session. And secondly, get seen, get heard. If you like the topic, if you're curious how this could apply to your work, just bring your questions using Meet You or saying that out loud. We're going to have a chance for that. I think we can go next. And then finally, to make the point that we are part of the platform with CSCP, and we lead the work or the leadership group on how to enable circular behavior through digitalization. And we don't do that alone. We lead that work, but together with other partners like Circular Regions, like EEB, Generation Climate Europe, ISEM, and so on. And what we're discussing today is the result of a 1 year of work, so pretty much 2022, where we met many times and we are discussing what does circular behavior really mean? How can we help consumers behaving differently? How does digitalization help, or how is this a barrier? And then so what we show today is the result, I think, of a joint work with the partners in the platform.
Yeah, also a very warm welcome from my side. Mariana, many thanks for the introduction. So maybe quickly about the purpose of the session today. So what we really want to do is to host a dialogue. So this is supposed to be a dialogue of how to advance circular behaviors among consumers with the support of digitalization. First, for this, we would like to talk with you about the pieces that are still missing in the puzzle in order to make circularity the new normal among consumers in Europe. Then we would also like to look for opportunities for different stakeholder groups of how they can support consumers in this. So what can retailers do, manufacturers, policymakers, but also NGOs, so all different kinds of stakeholders. And then we would also like, following a bit the idea of the transition that was proclaimed by the EU of sustainability and digitalization, see in how far digitalization can support sustainability and especially here circular consumption. Next slide, please. So maybe quickly on the topic, or why we think that this topic is so urgent and why we urgently need to address it. So what we still see, and this is already for many years, is an intentioned behavior gap in the circular economy, meaning that in service, for example, people already for many years now say that they really want to support circularity. They are really in favor of protecting the environment and feel also that this is super important for them. And they even see the need of engaging with circular behavior. So they also see that they themselves have a role. But in the end, this does not necessarily translate into action, into everyday action, into real life action. So for example, food, mobility and housing are still so some of the most impacting areas in our economic system, where we see still really less durable products and also products of higher use intensity. At the same time, when we really look at very concrete behavior, such as repairing a product, there are only 31% among EU citizens who have already repaired a product at home. So there is a large gap, and this really is a problem, because it's not that people don't want to behave circularly, it's just that there are other problems. Next slide, please. And at the same time, EU policy and also other stakeholders have or see the urgent need that we involve consumers more, because we really need them. It's just they have to play their role, especially when it comes to circularity, because without them it won't work, and circular business models just will fail. So there is this urgent need, and this is why we have our leadership group, and why we are doing what we are doing here, and also would like to discuss this with you. Next slide.
So we say there are puzzle pieces that are missing in this story, and there is a gap between what people think and what they actually want to do. So how do we solve that problem? Now, what are things that we can do to really fill in this gap? And so we see three main, let's say, ways or pillars for us to think that through. First, to ask ourselves, do people actually want to be more circular? Do people actually want, or maybe they don't even know what circular economy is, but they know some of the behaviors behind it, maybe using second-hand products, maybe recycling, maybe returning their electronics or their clothing for being recycled. But the bottom line is that desirable? Is that something that people aspire to do? So we have to ask ourselves, what is the challenge? Is it a challenge of motivation? The second challenge is, can people actually do what you're asking them to? And if people really can do physically, so is this something they manually, physically know how to do, or mentally know how to do? So if you want to recycle something, we did an experiment with yogurt cups, for example. Do people actually know that often they have to tear it apart, taking the paper out, taking the lid out, and put everything in different bins? Because if they don't do, then that gap is never going to be really closed, you know? And then finally, if people have the actual opportunity to engage, is it financially attractive? Is it fitting in their daily lives? Time-wise, is it attractive? Is there also infrastructure out there? So those are the three main pillars, and we often jump into solutions. I'm going to create an app, or I'm going to give a recipe, or I'm going to create an initiative, without asking first what people really need or what are their challenges, so that we come with a solution that really close a need gap, let's say. And if we can mix the three aspects, so motivation, capability, and opportunity, according to our behavioral models, that's where we really hit the nail with a solution that can best engage consumers. And so as a stakeholder, you could think, all right, if I find that there is a motivation aspect or issue, can I make then that easier for people to engage? Maybe easier means if people are already visiting a certain website, or if they're already a part of a social media channel platform, can I already tap into that visit to that website and engage them on a circular solution? Maybe engaging with the reused products, maybe returning their products. What is it that I want, and make it easier for them? I think Vital is one of the cases we present later, and they made the use of reusable packaging, like coffee cups or takeaway food, easier because you don't have to pay a deposit for that packaging. You can just borrow it. So it's a way to take a barrier out of people's way. But you can also think, can you make it more engaging? Can you make it more fun? Can you also get closer to the behavior? So what is the moment when I decide to take a circular action? If I buy a new smartphone, for example, maybe that's the moment where I decide to return my old one. And that's where we should really intervene to give people an option to return their phones. And then finally, if you can think of social pressure or social norms, and really then tap on those social norms to make the desired behavior the easier one to take. And then here we started brainstorming, what are the digital tools then that can help us in this process? So digital solutions can help us learning about best practices, can help us maybe learning more about our target audience. Is it a youth audience? Is it an elderly one? Is it people maybe that like to do sports or like to cook? Who is the audience we're talking to? You know? And digital solutions are there to help us understanding more existing information about people, for example. But we could also think of digital solutions as the means to implementing our intervention. Maybe it's delivered through an app, maybe it's delivered through a website, maybe it's delivered through an online marketplace, maybe it's a capacity building program for consumers that is delivered digitally. So there are different ways for us to think about of digitalization as a tool. Yeah, and we have been doing, as I mentioned, pilot testing a lot on this topic, and so I think trying to implement the theory also in practice. I think we can go next. Yes.
So yeah, we are super happy that we have 3 cases here presented today that are really exciting because all of them do exactly what we have been speaking about now. They support circular behavior among consumers by using digital tools. But before we go into that in more detail, I would like to hand over to Maria Nicolopoulou, who is a member of the EESC and will introduce the EU policy side for us today. Thank you very much for being here.
Yes. Thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me in this panel. Welcome to everyone. Very nice to see you again in person. I mean, the digitalization and digital strategy is very high up on the EU agenda. We all know that. And it's in our hands now not to make it a buzzword, but to really, really think that digitalization is a tool designed by humans to make our lives easier. No? So we need to think about the ways to really design it correctly since the beginning so that it can focus on serving the common purpose, serving a common good, and make it as inclusive as possible in order to be used by everyone. No? Very important to keep in mind what Mariana was also mentioning. You need to know your audience. So not only in terms of habits of consumption patterns, but also if we're talking about people who are digital enough to use these tools or not, people that they will be very much committed to all these innovative ideas or not. So do we want to influence the one that we don't have close to us? Do we want to influence even more the ones that they are only convinced? So we will need to think about different tools and different designs for the different categories. Now, you mentioned the gap between the willingness in being sustainable and the lack of engagement. I think there are other studies that indicate that one of the most important issues about getting engaged is the lack of information sometimes, especially for the conscious consumers. Now I'm thinking, we want but we can't because we don't have enough information. So on this level, on the European Union, there was already a proposal about launching a digital product passport, for example, for the projects, which of course will help a lot in spreading the information. Of course, we need to be realistic sometimes. Too much information is worse than not having any information at all. So once again, we need to think about our audience and which kind of information and technical specificities each stakeholder needs to have. But still, it's a good solution to move forward. And especially when we were talking about this issue in the ESC, debating about the opinion, we stressed a lot the fact that we would need to have within the passport a sort of repair score of the products. How can we repair, in which way, how would it cost, to make the things easier for everyone. And another aspect that we also wanted to mention, and this is something I always mention in the debates, when we're talking about sustainability in the ESC, we always align with the definition of the Sustainable Development Goals, which I haven't heard naming it enough during these days. I know it's close to everyone's heart, but we need to listen about it as well. So in the digital passport, another suggestion was precisely including information on labor and how products were made in the source, for example, and if there were any social conflicts there, because responsible consumer and sustainable consumer will also take informed choices. Will make informed choices, having all the aspects of sustainability enclosed in there. Now, one of the issues that we always think, I don't want to think about problems, but we also need to think about barriers in other aspects when we're talking about digitalization, is, for example, the extra steps that we might create for some consumers, when we're thinking about digital, to take the phone, scan, click, download, and all these things. So this is another thing to take into account in the design. The simpler, the better. I think we all agree on that. But we also need to prevent, on the design phase, creating any inequalities. Inequalities not only to the people who are not digital enough or do not use these digital tools, but also people with disabilities, for example, people who are impaired have a vision impairment. I mean, have you ever seen people like zooming in like to find information on the internet? All these aspects that they're very much linked to the social aspects. I think we need to take them into account. And then thinking a little bit outside of big companies and manufactured products, there is a part of circular economy that has to do precisely with reusing products of second-hand markets that they can very easily be available online, and this will help especially younger generations to match clients with products. The sharing economy also is very much moving on the internet and on different platforms. It has a huge potential there that we will, of course, need to intensify. And we were talking this morning about social enterprises. And I was thinking not only social enterprises, but also social activism. We have outside of the radar very many projects that they are not by default circular, but it can boost circularity if we manage to create synergies among them, no? For example, we were speaking about urban gardens this morning, and or about sharing economy in terms of clothes. But I'm thinking about a project basically in Spain, for example, which is time banks, which is a network of people exchanging services, and instead of paying with money, they pay with hours, no? So we have an example in Spain that within this network of time banks, there was another parallel project on the ground, which was Repair Café. Activists, social activists, that they were spending their free time repairing stuff. So at some point, the activists were getting paid through the time bank hours for their service. And these activists could spend this time that they won through a common platform on other services through the network of time banks. So we can find synergies within the different products and expand a little bit and break the silos and stop thinking only about the ones that they're purely circular, but how we will be able to connect with others and to infect them, let's say, with circularity in this sense. So thank you very much, and happy to hear your thoughts and advice.
Many thanks to you, Maria. Thanks for helping us. Thanks, Maria, for helping us reflecting about the needs of, I think, people, different social groups, and bringing also examples of how this could be solved through digitalization in practice. And when you told me about the hour and time bank initiative, I found that was particularly insightful. Thank you so much. And I think we now jump into our 3 cases where we want to hear from concrete initiatives how circular behaviors have been supported with digital solutions. And so I'm happy to give the floor first to Evolena de Vida Desmael. She's an impact entrepreneur and climate activist, and also the CEO and co-founder of Fercado. And Fercado is a platform that makes second-hand products, including clothing, easier and more attractive for you to buy, to make it your first option. So, Evolena, I'm happy to give the floor to you. Thanks for being with us. I think you have to unmute yourself, Evolena. We still don't hear you.
Fine, Evolena.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Super.
Okay, good. That was a technical problem, but you can hear me now, so I can restart my intro.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you clearly. Go ahead.
Thank you. So really happy to be here, especially because I initially actually studied PR and ended up in a European institution, and then finished or ended up being.
Sorry, Evolena, do you also hear this background noise?
Yes.
I don't know who
There
has
we go.
maybe the microphone also open. If the others in the line could mute the microphone,
thank you, Sim.
perfect. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, Evolena, for that.
Okay. Whew. Yeah. So basically, I first wanted to be a change maker in an institution, then decided for more, as I was a bit too impatient to enter the political world, I decided for the other side of the change makers and innovators, namely the startup world, and that's what made me move from Brussels to Berlin, where I usually, or where I still sit today. And yes, I have been a climate activist since I was 12, and today I'm still active in Generation Climate Europe, which has tight links with the European institutions. Tim, can you just mute yourself? Thanks. So this, naturally led me to the intersection between climate activism and entrepreneurship, which is creating change for a better future. And that's how, after an intense career in startups, I created my own. And Fercado is basically born from the realization that everyone wants to buy better. I mean, 90% or more than 90% of consumers say that they want to buy more conscious, that they want to buy better, that they want to be part of a movement that is for more sustainability, but that the technology that allows you to do that as a consumer is still very out of date. So my area is more in secondhand because I'm a secondhand shopper myself, and I realized that it's a booming market, but it still has nothing to do with the experience of buying new in most cases. And so this was really the basis of the thinking of saying, if we want really every consumer to change their behavior and to choose secondhand first, we really need to bring this convenience and bring this attractiveness and this ease within this market to also make it double the size of the normal e-commerce by 2030, which is the objective here. And I think it's very much in line with the European Commission, the Act on Circular Economy and so on. So the first thing that we did was to say, okay, we need to really bring the offers where people are. So adapt to the ways that people shop currently online, and just say, we will actually bring you all of the best offers that are sustainable to you at the moment where you're already buying. So we don't promote more shopping, but we promote better shopping. And so what we developed is a browser extension that just needs one click to be added to your browser, and then whenever you go shopping online on any platform selling new products, we automatically pop up with the best secondhand alternatives. So whether it's books or electronics or fashion, the goal is really to say we kind of hack the system to help you as a consumer become part of the solution instead of being part of the problem. And this was really, I would say, a way for us to really address as many people as possible, and starting from where do we stand right now, where does consumption stand, and what are the benefits and the habits of people, and mostly Gen Z and millennials, where you can see that, and I've been doing a lot of interviews lately to go even deeper into the topics. You can really see that every Gen Z and millennial has tons of apps and are used to Gorillas and Amazon Prime and Tinder, to have like technology allows us to get anything we want at our doorsteps in minutes, whatever it is. And so in order to really bring this circular mindset and this circular new habits, the realization that we had was really to say, well, we need to somehow take what is already there and what people are used to and help them do better without having to change too much of their habits. So this is mostly what we're doing. We are also leveraging the power of AI. You might have heard a lot about it lately, but basically it's how to really harness digitalization in order to promote less but better consumption. And yeah, I think digitalization is a tool, as you mentioned in the introduction, a tool that really can play a really big role in behavior change. And that's really what we are into. And definitely with education and with kind of using the carrot and the stick, I believe that whether for consumer or for companies, there is really a huge potential there in really using those new technologies to also create change that is accessible for everyone, so leaving no one behind, and at the same time really accelerating this behavior change. I think we are a bit running out of time, so I will keep it short.
Thank you so much, Evelina. I think that was really on time and perfect. Thank you so much. So really super exciting insights, and I'm already looking forward to the discussion, and I'm sure that also our audience will have many questions. First, we would like to listen to our next speaker, who is Tim Breker from Vital. So he's the co-founder and the managing director. And what Vital does, he will of course explain it to us in more detail, but they offer reusable food packaging as a service in order to avoid packaging waste. But how this works and how this works digitally, he will explain to us now. Go ahead.
How we use digitalization to encourage consumer behavior to be more circular. So I think it's really a passionate topic for me, because it's really the circular economy that I'm super excited about, and where I see not only the need on the consumer side to behave more circular, but also to whole industries to become more circular. And I think I hope you see the first slide, and what Vital really is like the operating system that's plug and play for the B2B partners to enable the use of deposit-free reusables. So as you can see on the left side, we already offer the full range of takeout food containers, but also of course reusable coffee cups and cups for cold drinks. And each of them is tracked individually with a QR code. Right, so QR code technology basically enables us to really optimize the flow of containers. And in order to do so, we have digital apps, one for the B2B side, so mostly restaurants, canteens, retailers. And then on the B2B side, on the B2C side, excuse me, just the Vital app basically, which you can download in any app store. And in case basically you ask yourself, well, is there also an offline version to use Vital? Yes, there is. So even though we're a digital tech platform for the reuse economy, we have offline cards, for example, where people can just buy an offline card once in order to borrow up to 2 containers at the same time. And that allows us also to really get the full range of people enjoying reusable packaging. But to be fully honest, like we do have our app users from the age of I think like 16, something like that, because you have to put down a payment method up to 80. Where we have lots of people in retirement also already happily using our service. And then as a core, basically on the right side, you see our data and analytics platform, which is key to deliver additional value, because as was mentioned before, there are some barriers to the circular economy, like motivation or the attention gap that Imke mentioned, the missing infrastructure, partly at least, and so on. And this data that we have really allows us to make it cheaper for the consumer than single use, and also super easy to use, as well as really utilize or maximize the utilization of the reusable containers to maximize the environmental impact. So and to go one step further onto the next slide, so we deliberately chose to work without the deposit, because what we learned in Germany watching watching deposits as a way to organize reusables, we saw that if you have a complex system where you have multiple different types of containers, where you really need to follow inventories and see, okay, which restaurant, which location needs what is missing. You want to track your impact. You want to have transparency on what you achieve with what you're doing. So it's really important to use digitalization, and it can actually take away barriers, for example, like the deposit payment, where with the Vital app, you can borrow as many reusable containers for free as you need in that certain moment, right? Because there wasn't a problem of lack of Tupperware, but they were just not there when I wanted to use them to take out food from the restaurant. And you can borrow them for free, but limited to 14 days. And this basically is a little psychological trick, because if you offer people to use something for free, they will do almost anything to not pay for it, because if they would something that they could use for free, it would cause cognitive dissonance. And it's very unpleasant. So we achieve a 99% return rate, which means we actually maximize the utilization of our assets. And then the digital system also has some advantages on the B2B side, meaning the risk of theft is not there. If you have different currency, we have a franchise partner in Mexico. If you borrow a Vital container there, you can easily return it in the system. In Germany, no foreign exchange problems and whatsoever. And what is the thing we are most passionate about is really the return rate, because circular business models are not per se better than in our case, for example, single-use products, right? You really have to look at the return rate, because that determines how much actually the reusable container is better than single use. And we see that we do achieve the necessary return rate for the containers to really be impactful. And with less than 5 days, we see that the 14-day borrowing period that we provide for consumers is enough. They return it even quicker, and that's a very good sign, because that's kind of what we try to do, right? We offer something for free, and once the consumer kind of gets used to having a higher quality container that is leak-proof, microwave safe, then we kind of keep him around and make him return it in our partner network. He gets points in the app, he gets trophies, so it really engages the consumer to change his behavior and stick with the reusables. What we see in our data also is the case. And I think if you go to the last slide, it's the wonderful thing that Europe has a huge location advantage for reusable packaging, and in particular in Germany, we have already a habit from basically deposit return schemes. So let's build on this as a continent. Let's use this and show the world how we can get rid of single-use plastic waste and make reuse the standard in many different use cases where it makes sense.
Tim, thank you so much. I think it's really insightful to hear the story of Vital, and also to know, as you highlighted, the added value and the benefits of thinking of reusable business models that are not only working based on deposit schemes. So hang on with us a little further, so just we can have our last case, and then we can open a discussion in our panel, including you. Thanks again. Last but not least, we're happy to invite Kasia Duco-Gazina, the Sustainability Manager from IKEA in Germany, to share insights about how they are planning their circular economy strategy and leading implementation of circular business models approaches into the work of IKEA. Kasia, the floor is yours. Can you hear as well?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Wonderful.
So if that works, and you can also...
We can share the slides. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So thanks for the very nice introduction. I can hear echo. I don't know why is that. Is that still? No.
Sorry, Kasia.
Is that still? I could hear echo, but now it's okay. I don't know if my colleagues hear me. You can hear me, okay? So
Yes.
that must be in the room. I'm sorry.
We can hear you well, Kasia.
Yeah.
Yes,
Super.
go ahead.
Okay.
I closed my mic because I realized it was open. That was the reason for some echoing. So I closed my mic again. Go ahead.
It's exactly the digitalization thing that happens here.
Yes.
Thanks for invitation. So I'm very happy to meet you. I've been working at IKEA on a country sustainability position for, if I now calculate, over 12 years. So I'm a little bit feeling that I'm super happy that we come to the circularity point in the whole sustainability agenda. Of course, it has been on the agenda for some years, but it really starts to be very concrete. And the case I wanted to propose you today is that, I mean, first of all, I believe you know IKEA in general, but maybe you are not super aware about our sustainability and circular approach. The slide that I've shown you is very much connected with the retailing part. So I'm representing the German part that mostly is like, sometimes we even say a selling machine, because this is where we mostly meet the consumers. It's a big impact on the whole selling globally is exactly in Germany. So when we look about what kind of input, what kind of influence for circularity we have, is of course about reducing waste and reducing water consumption in our operation. It is around 7-8% of our climate footprint. It is very much about using renewable energy. This is something that we are very much concentrated on, including renewable electricity that we have for all our operations for many years, and now having a transition for renewable heating and cooling. But actually, it's very much about circular services for our customers. And here I would say we as IKEA, we have made some steps, but still we are at the very beginning of this whole road. And on the second slide, you will see our, let's say, biggest input. So for many years already, we have always had something that was called like a corner in our stores, where most of the customers were looking for bargains. They could really find cheaper products because they were coming from the exhibition, or they were coming from returns, or they were somehow damaged, but or mistaken somehow, but they could be repaired, and that was always the case. But for some years now, and actually with Germany front leading for that, we have changed those corners into somehow that we call circular hubs. In Germany, we call it Zweite Chance-Markt. And we really want to drive circularity here. And what kind of element we have added is that we are actually buying back the products, our own products for customers on the market, and trying to resell them. And this is like an ongoing service that we run. And if you look at the numbers, of course, this is not the massive volume service yet, because there are millions of products that we sell, the new ones. And if you look at the numbers that are sold as secondhand, so exactly taken from the customers and put on the market, it's around 200,000 products globally. By 100,000 customers, meaning one customer usually sell us 2 products as a second hand. But this is exactly something that we really want to accelerate. But of course, we need those products. So for making circularity, we need more products. And on my last slide, on the third one, you will see somehow the digital direction that we believe might help us, but will not solve all the problems. Because of course, digital world will not solve the issue that our products are physical and somehow really needs to bring them back and then sell them again. And our aim is really to have the over 90% of resell rate, because we are not a waste company. So we don't really want to just take simply old products and, put it into recycle. We really want to put them back into usage. So that's why actually I would name 3 points where I see digitalization supporting, but on the other side challenging. First of all, spare parts. We know about right to repair coming to many countries, and we know that companies like us need to be prepared for this. So that's why we are working with spare parts, and we offer them already today online. So it's quite easy process. You can go on the website, you can put the number of the spare parts that you need, like Schraube or whatever you actually need. Sorry, I don't know, screw. We can see around 20, globally we sell around 20, a little bit more like 20 millions of spare parts to 2 million customers. It means like on average, one customer is taking 10 spares ordering for free in a small package. So that's easy. But then if we talk about bigger products, we cannot just sell them, and also we cannot just sell them for free. So that's why we have this second-hand row of the products. So when we encourage customers to bring us the products, but the journey starts digital because people need to go on the website and actually put the products and check if these products we would accept. Because we sell around 9,000, 8,000 products, but we don't take today all of them because we know because of different circumstances we cannot really sell them, or they are too small, or there are different safety regulations. That's why the journey starts online and people need to do this effort. And of course, that means that not all of them will really bring the products. But we can see that some countries have already actually even go further on. So actually all the products that are already being brought to our stores by the customers, or actually they are put online by the customers, and then the other customers can make a reservation online. And it's actually even I would say 40% globally of all the products that we sell as secondhand has an online reservation. So there is a lot of potential with digital solutions, but I want to emphasize that that will not really solve all the circular challenges that we might have. But we can see it's really developing from our side. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you so much, Kasia, also. So that was really great insights into a totally different sector again. But we see also that we can compare a bit the approaches and also maybe similar challenges. So it's now time to open the panel discussion. And I would really like to invite all of the audience to join and to place your questions. Of course, you're more than welcome here who are in the room to just raise your hand, but you can also put this in the Meet You chat. And for the online audience, of course, you're also welcome to put this in the chat. It's now open and you are able to ask. I will start until the first questions come in, and just since this kind of events normally are also like a time where you can have some wishes, and I would just like the speakers just to tell us what your vision is for a digitally supported consumer behavior. So where should we head to, in your opinion? So we need the three speakers. Okay.
Which one would you like to give the floor first?
Who
wants to answer? Who is ready to answer?
Yeah.
Maybe they just take the floor because they...
Okay, so the speakers can just take the floor. So who would like to answer? So do you have any wish in your mind?
Just in general, I think maybe you can turn off your mic. Okay, thank you very much. So I think really getting more digital in the whole of the life and being a citizen, I think is a big part to increase digitalization. And then I think it's okay to rely on companies like ours or consumer facing companies to figure out like the gamification, the incentive schemes and so on to encourage circular behavior. And at the same time, at least in our industry, or whenever, or in most cases, when you transfer from a linear to a circular economy, I believe that it makes a lot of sense once, also economically, it makes a lot of sense once externalities are priced into the current way of doing things, the current product. So in our case, the disposable packaging. So I think increasing the prices or the cost by putting in externalities can be a big driver into more circular behavior.
I'll switch it off again. Yeah, thank you so much, Tim. Yeah, the price effect, I think this is a huge debate. Yeah, many thanks for answering this. Yeah, we have a first question also from the audience. Mattea, yes.
Hello. I have a question more geared towards Mercado and IKEA. So dealing as well, myself being in the fashion upcycling scene, what you get a lot is you have materials sometimes that you can't resell, you can't repair, you can't upcycle. And I guess as a secondhand platform, or as well as IKEA with the buyback scheme, how do you go about dealing with these resources as well as justifying it to the consumers? Like, okay, you've tried to take this circular action. How can we reward you without actually rewarding you because this specific product is not applicable to our services? Thank you.
Who would like to answer? One of the speakers?
Start maybe. I think Yashari will have another point of, I mean, we can probably elaborate on each other's answers. I think it's a really good point, what you're saying about the fact that sometimes expectations cannot be met in terms of circularity. I think we should tend to zero waste and to making our economy as efficient and effective as the natural world is, right? Where nothing is wasted and everything is used to recreate value. In this case, I think of fashion, for instance, and when you see the enormous amount of trash that fashion, especially fast fashion, generates, I've seen other ways where that it can be also repurposed. For instance, I was renovating a house in the countryside of Belgium last year, and we used isolating coating that was made out of old clothes. So it's also a way of saying nothing, even if you donate your clothes and even if you expect them to return the market, they could be returned to the market in a different form or in a different way that still creates a lot of value. I've seen also a few days ago a company in France that is currently developing an isolation technique that is made out of cigarette butts. So they collect all the cigarette butts and sort them out and so on, and then make isolation material out of it. And I think all of these things, if you well, this is not always digitally made. It's also very offline innovation and very good as well. I think that there could be a way of also adding a level of digitalization to make it even more, even easier for people to participate in it. But there is definitely a lot of different ways to think about this system, and definitely much more to it than recycling in itself, much more to circular economy than recycling, which is, I think, one of the educational points that still needs to be elaborated on. I feel like a lot of people don't really know yet all of the levels that they can act on, that reusing, repurposing, reducing is definitely also a big part, if not the main part of a thriving circular economy. Yeah.
And perhaps also, Evelina, building on what you said, maybe digitalization could help on connecting. So if it's not, for example, for Mercado to take back that resource, who could be the organization or the business interested in that resource that you could then direct maybe the consumer towards, that could be part of your service offer, no? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Kaza, would you like to add anything on that?
Yes, sure. I believe there is a huge difference, if I could hear your your question, in the approach towards consumers and attracting them and really communicating and explaining and making the final offer. If you are talking to a limited group of super conscious, ecologically conscious people, and if you are a business like us who is talking to the massive consumers with a super big segmentation and different needs. That's why, for example, I mean, you have named fashion and the textiles. We have taken at least in Germany, a very conscious decision that, for example, we exclude some super difficult categories of products from this second-hand offer. And this is because, I mean, we could do it. That could be even attractive so that people would bring us a lot of things. But we analyze it would be super hard to resell. So if we really want to work on the conversion and securing that our service has proof points for real trade on circular way, we could not really allow ourselves, even if my green heart is, burning, and I would, of course, like to save the world. But for example, then in the category of textiles, we have a different approach. So exactly in Germany, we have now tested last year a service of exactly taking back a very problematic category like down and feather. So today there is almost no infrastructure and no solution on the market to recycle or put into any second life down and feather products, and people have them at home. On the other side, we also sell them. But here I need to a bit from technical point of view, how we did it. Of course, we have found a supplier in our supply chain, one in Hungary, one in Spain, that would be willing to take this post-consumer recycled materials to work on that. And the great news after those tests for some months in the German store was, to my surprise, that the quality of this product was excellent. So people really understood what kind of down and feather product they could bring. They really did it super well. And we could work on that, and we will produce something out of that. But not to disappoint you, the motivation for the consumers was that we were giving them vouchers for new products. And that really made them, they brought the old products, but they got new vouchers for the new products. And in most of the cases, if you see where the volumes comes, it's because people want to get vouchers. So this is a kind of reality check that we have to live with. On the other side, it's fair enough for a business to work.
Thanks, Kasia. Thanks for bringing in your views on this. And I think that's then definitely something where we need to have a holistic view so that we avoid more shopping instead of really getting our circular economy goals across. No? I know we have another question in the room, so I would ask you to please introduce yourself, and then you can really directly voice it.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Isabel. I'm working at Cradle to Cradle NGO in Berlin. And this question aims in a similar direction, probably for Tim and Kasia, because you also have a production going on. So do you also have parallel efforts on producing and designing your own products, whether it be Billy stuff or vital bowls, in a material healthy and circular way? Because at the end, even with repairing and reusing, there is an end of life of a linear product, and then it should be able to be recycled in any way, and the material should be able to be reused.
Yeah, thank you. Tim, Kasia, would any of you have insights on this, on the actual production side and design thinking approach for your products?
Yes, do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Yeah? Okay, super. I will take it short. Yes, I mean, Cradle to Cradle is, of course, a kind of a master in circularity. I don't think we are such advanced, but working on that for 10 years, this was the first thing to do, designing the product according to circular principles and all the all the must points in that. Including recyclability, renewable materials, recycled materials as the only possibility to do. We are at IKEA at around 60% of achievements globally on the product level, with ambitions to get 100%, but we are not there yet. But you are absolutely right. This is the step number one.
Yes, thank you very much for that question, because I think design for circularity was also the buzzword I was looking for, or that came to my mind when I heard the last speaker's questions. But I think for Vital, it's like we don't have our own production. So we started obviously with which with products that were there on the market, and we decided to invest into our own tooling to produce really our own vital bowls last year. And that's exactly the ambition, right? We track every container, so we can really ensure that we take them out of the system. We get them returned by our partners if they're at their end of life, if they're broken, for example, with a steak knife or something like that. So we get a very clean and clear waste stream back of our products, and this is the goal, to at the end of life make new bowls out of the old vital bowls. And I think with PP, it is or it will be possible.
Okay, thank you so much, Tim. We also have a question from the chat that I would like to read or tell you. So people are mentioning that there are certain fears about using digital services, of course, relating, for example, to cyber crimes, fake users, and so on. And maybe we could even expand that question a bit also to access, because, of course, not everybody has access to digital services. So maybe you could also, tell us a bit of your approach of how you deal with those fears and problems, challenges that come along with digital tools.
Yeah, I'm very happy to take it. In the end, I think it makes sense to always look at the opportunity and to really focus on that part. But yes, it is true, and we do have people that explicitly say they don't want to register with us, even though we just request an email and a payment method. We have our offline card for people to use the system completely anonymously. It's also, I think, a fair option. So I think just by being creative and sorting out basically other options, that's one way, and the other one is really to increase security barriers and so on, to really convince and foster this confidence in the digital product. At least I myself personally, I'm a true believer in digitalization and in the huge positive effects that it brings. And I envision a future where we are all very much digital, and where we ensure that the digital services are secure and enough for everyone to use them to the benefit.
Thank you, Tim. Anyone else on this who would like to respond? Doesn't look like, no? Okay, so I think we have one final question from the audience. Okay.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to ask the question. I'm Anastasia from the European Commission, European Economic Commission for Europe. We are, and I have a principal question because difficult to formulate it. We know that digitalization and circular transition is a bit like parallel angles of the policy, and I would like to know if European Union or member states have done what have been done to connect these two agendas, maybe policy measures or incentives to support startups, private sector, SMEs in digitalization for the circular economy. Does this angle even exist? And if maybe it's difficult to answer to give to answer to this question, I would like to know if representatives of companies that we have benefited from that kind of policy support from the governments, because we see that most of them are from Germany. What are the so what does Germany offer so that there are so many companies working in this area of digitalization for the circular economy? Thanks.
Thanks, Anastasia. Maybe I can share a bit from my experience, and I'm happy to hear if any of our speakers have insights on this, if you benefited from policy at all. Maybe, Maria, if you have more insights on this too, or anybody in the room. But what I see so far is, in the intersection is financing from the Commission on research projects on this. So a lot of, I think, Horizon projects trying to explore the role of digitalization, maybe the development of apps to help people behaving more circular or more sustainably. So I think, let's say, through research enabling that to happen, and also some initiatives that are individual digital tools, for example, the digital product passport that Maria mentioned beforehand, as a way to help people at least having more access to information about the product and helping us increasing the traceability of products' value chains. But I see, I mean, specifically, let's say, a digital circular economy strategy, I'm not aware of. I see sometimes these cross-cutting things coming through specific initiatives or specific projects that I funded.
Yes, well, in my experience, I haven't heard of anything specific, but you have like big blocks of financing on digitalization. You have the digitalization for agriculture, for example. So then within the different sectors, you can always use this kind of money depending on how you build your project, and you can introduce the circular idea on the way you plan your project. No, so specific financing, maybe there are, but I'm not aware of them. But there is always opportunity for the existing fundings to be implemented circularly.
Yeah, just to come in on that, my name's Sarah Miller and I'm the Chief Executive of the Rediscovery Centre, which is the National Centre for the Circular Economy in Ireland. We recently, well, it's about a year ago now, we received some funding through the European Life Programme, and that was to develop a digital roadmap for the circular economy within our organisation. So I think back to your point, it is there are mechanisms there, but maybe not specifically calling out the digitalisation, but certainly there is European funding that can be accessed.
Thanks, Sarah. You have
If I can intervene, I don't know if someone else is having a point in the audience.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I think it was a good point that was raised, and I think it might be a coincidence that we're all from Germany. I also think that Germany is pushing a lot for innovation, because I mean we know that Europe is a bit behind on a few topics, and in terms of I mean the Commission was pushing a lot. So I think one way, or if not the best way, to push for innovation in a country, in a continent, is to create the regulation framework that will set the direction of the whole economy towards there, so that people like us who are innovators and who have maybe the ambition and the ability to create businesses see the opportunity where it is. And so whenever you create an opportunity based on regulations and based on like the right to repair, the laws against planned obsolescence, all of these sets of frameworks and regulations have definitely created new opportunities in the business world for innovations to thrive and for things to be redeveloped in a new way, to be rethought, because big businesses know that they have to change, and innovators know that there is space for change. So wherever there is a big opportunity created by regulatory framework or by change at an institutional level, you can be sure that there will very soon after be a lot of new startups that will just emerge in this field to fill the gap. And so I think this is where really I'm a big fan of the political action also on these topics. That's why I'm still a climate activist as well, and that's why I really try to keep a foot on both worlds. It's because I see really how important the collaboration is between all of those different stakeholders to make sure that we advance in the right direction, that the political framework are really feeding into each other with the innovators and with the businesses, to make sure that we end up where we want to be, right? Which is here in a much more circular economy.
Evelina, thank you so much for this positive note, I think, highlighting the roles of different actors, so not only policy making, but that also startups and the role of consumers and the role of business. I think this helps us then, lifting and having an opportunity vision on this, where systems change can come from different experiences across society. And I think with that, I would be happy to slowly move us towards our wrapping up. I think the slide before was perfect. Yes, just for us to share one more. Thank you. Thanks. For us to highlight some takeaways that we had from this process and that could feed into the work of that we do coming next. So first, for us to realize that digital solutions can be an opportunity for us to test how to get quicker to people, how to get with less budgets or smaller budgets to people, because it's more accessible to everybody, to entrepreneurs, to consumers, to policymakers, to then review the choice architecture when people are visiting a certain website. I liked Evelina's example a lot, where she was thinking of a solution to go directly where people are already and creating then a technical solution to get to that decision point of shopping something. So can that choice architecture be reviewed and using the opportunity of a digital tool to test things, because there is a relative ease of accessing those tools, of testing things there. If it doesn't work, it's easier to change than maybe being in the real world. But at the same time, I think being aware that not everybody's there in the digital world, so can we combine digital solutions with offline solutions, or can we maybe have digital solutions more targeted for those segments of people we know that are already online, and so adapting more and more the solutions we develop to the target audience that we want to reach out to, and making sure that we are then intertwining off and online solutions, or the hybrid, just like we are doing this conference right now. And I think with this, I come with an invitation for you to get in touch with us if you think the topic of engaging consumers and circular behaviors are important for you, because we are shaping and thinking out what's going to be the work for 2023 on this. So if this is of your interest, come tell us. We started some conversations already on this, and I think we are happy then to onboard your needs or your concrete cases so that we can together drive the work this year and taking that forward. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you also to our speakers. No, I forgot to mention that, but then Tim, Evelina, Kasia, thank you so much for joining us, and Maria as well for your insights and taking the time. Thanks. And thanks to you.
Thank you.
And it was coincidence that all speakers came from Germany, by the way.
I have a different opinion, to be honest.
Oops. Do you feel you still want to share, Tim?
No, I think we have a big problem, or Germany has a big problem, or is a big polluter, and so that gives a big market of opportunity. And then also, I think, at least in our case of reuse, that we have a long history of deposit return schemes in the supermarket. So people are already at a different level of circularity or circular behavior than in many other countries. And at least us, for a digital deposit-free reuse system, we profit and benefit from that. I mean, I don't think we would have gotten to 500,000 registered consumers in any other country in Europe that quickly.
Thanks. I think that's helpful for us to know. I mean, I was also going to mention that beforehand. Many things depend on the cultural context, and on the country. Also, if people want to download apps or not, if they're digitally friendly or not. And I think that's then a valid point you bring of why your initiative, for example, maybe managed to thrive differently in Germany than in other countries, no?
Yes, and
Thanks.
I mean, the lack of digital hunger in Germany was definitely a barrier we had to overcome. But in the end, I think the net effect of being in Germany was very positive due to the experience with reuse from the deposit return schemes.
You can leave. It's totally fine. Okay.
I would love to. I know time is up. I'm so sorry. I just was really intrigued by one of the things that was said earlier. I work for a company who's created a supply chain transparency blockchain platform on blockchain, and we've managed to raise more than 3 million in money from European Innovation Fund. So yes, it's possible to get money from the EU. For everyone who's interested, there's the Horizon Europe stand downstairs at the networking area. They can really help, and any new EU innovation projects usually have 15, 20 parties. They always need innovative young startups and companies involved to show that they're innovative. In the other session, there's someone from EIT Raw Materials. EIT is also a European Commission funded innovation mechanisms that support startups with small amounts from 20 to 60K onwards in a very early stage. So these people are here, just reach out. They're like really, really helpful.
That's super helpful, yes. Thanks a lot. Evolena team, thank you so much.
Thank you also
Thank you
for
so
the
much.
last impulse. If there's any chance, please connect with me on LinkedIn, because I would love to understand better if we could also leverage EU funding for Vital.
That's super kind of you. I think we are always, as was just mentioning, getting to new projects and having opportunities to host conversations. So I think that's we are very happy to hear. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Startup?
Sorry, Evolena?
What was the name of the startup that last woman was talking about?
Good question. What's the name of your organization?
We are asking her, just 1 second.
What's the name of your organization, of your startup?
No.
The name is Circular Rise. So Circle or Rise.
Circle or Rise?
Circular Rise, yeah.
Circular Rise. You are
Thank you.
located where? So where are you from?
In The Hague.
Okay, in Den Haag in the Netherlands.
Nice.
Perfect, thank you so much. It was
See
great
you.
having you here.
Thank
See
you.
you. Bye.
Bye.